One, two, three, four.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Why are you yelling? Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Today we wanted to talk about security. I grabbed my mom. She doesn't really know a lot about it. She surfs the web, sometimes does shopping online, and just in general, it's one of those fears that my mom has and a lot of people out there have about how to protect your credit card, how to protect your personal information.
Yeah.
So I decided to make a few videos of just to try to help everyone to try to, not only technology savvy people, just any person to understand the core foundations of the web so it's easier for everyone to feel safe around the web and just get a better understanding how things work. So let's start. So the first step I want to do is I just want to show you basically, and we're going to be working with Firefox. It's personally my favorite browser. I'll talk about this in future videos, why it's my favorite browser. But it has a lot to do with protecting my privacy. I personally feel like that Firefox is one of the better better browsers that enable you to protect your privacy. All right, so speaking of which, let's start talking about how do you know if a place is safe or not safe, and how do you make a decision if you get an email from your bank that it's really from your bank, or you want to buy something and you want to feel secure about where you're buying it from. And there's a lot of layers to security. And I want to just start with this off with saying there is no such thing as 100% safe. Credit cards get stolen. Unfortunately, this happens. It happens even the biggest companies in the world. I just got recently an email from Target letting me know that maybe my credit card was compromised, and I just got another email from my bank letting me know that my credit card was compromised a couple of days ago. So I thought, it's a great idea. Even someone that's technology savvy as I am, it happens. So how do you protect yourself to make sure that it doesn't happen more often than it should? And really the big question is making sure that you don't give your information to the wrong places. And there's a few layers to that, and the first layer that I want you to be very familiar with is what type of encryption does that website have. And when I say encryption, what I mean is, and there's two layers here, we're going to talk about the next one in a second. When you hear encryption, what do you think that means, Mom?
Coded?
Absolutely. So basically, it's basically a way to code your conversation with another website. In general, all the information that is being sent online is images and text, and it's very visible and very easy for anyone to read it. So if I'm very close to this computer and I'm a hacker or I don't know what, I could actually read your information very easily. When we work with a regular file, which is basically a local file, you'll see that it starts with file : //
Yeah.
Now, sometimes you'll see it, sometimes it won't, but that is the file format, and this just means it's a local file. You're not really communicating with the web in this format.
Okay.
Another very common format is HTTPS, and another common format, such as you can see on Amazon, is just HTTP. And by the way, when it's HTTP, some browsers just hide the HTTP because it's not really very relevant because everything is HTTP on the web. But you'll see that, for example, our website is HTTP. Amazon basic website is also HTTP. Google has a HTTPS. Firefox, or the Mozilla Foundation, has a HTTPS as well. So the first step is when you're coming to security, not everything needs to be secure. So if I'm not trying to get from you personal information, there's no need for me to try to put it in some sort of security because all you're doing is consuming data. Okay. So when you're going onto a site like Amazon right now and you're on the homepage, although they really want your credit card, they're not asking your credit card right now. All they're doing is presenting you information.
Yeah.
Now, probably the main reason why their main page is not HTTPS but HTTP is because in this situation, you're not traveling with secure information. And they want to make their site as fast and as efficient as they can. So if they encrypt information every time when they're sending it to the consumer, it makes their site slower. So they prefer, just as much as we prefer, to provide our services without an encryption because you're not providing any of your personal information at this stage.
It's only when you go on checkout to pay it should be encrypted already.
That's where it's most important. So for example, so if I'm here on Amazon, for example, and let's say I'm going to just buy something. Let's say we're going to buy a Kindle, and we're going to fake buy. Don't worry, I'm not going to give you any credit cards. I had enough of credit cards being lost for a few good months. So if I add this to the chart and I'm just going to go and I'm going to continue, I'm just going to go to a payment page and I'm going to proceed to the checkout. Once I proceed to the checkout, notice how the URL changed and now it's an HTTPS. because now they're asking you for personal information such as your credit card and all that good stuff that they want to keep secure. So that's really the first layer of security. So let me ask you a question before we continue. If you go onto a site and on that page on the site they're asking you for your credit card or your social security number or any information that is sensitive information, should you provide it if it's an HTTP URL?
I gotta know who it is.
It doesn't matter if you know who it is. You should never provide personal information that is personal to you if it's in not HTTPS.
If it's not in an HTTPS?
Right. If you're in a regular HTTP and you put in your social security, it means it's not protected. While this is traveling from our computer all the way to whoever is going to consume it, in our case is Amazon.com, this information goes through hundreds of computers and it goes through satellites, and there's a lot of places where someone could steal your information. You never want to provide your personal information if it's not secure. And S stands for secure. So if it's only HTTP, you don't want to provide your personal information, period. Now, there's another layer to it, but first of all, if they ask you for your social, if they ask you for your credit card, if they ask you for something that is very personal, like, like...
Your password's okay.
Password is more common not to be HTTPS. Like on our website, we don't have an HTTPS on our passwords, and the main reason for that is because we have a clear separation between the credit card processing and your password. If someone logs into your account, they don't have access to your credit card. But if someone logs into your, if someone here logs into your account, they have access to your credit card. So you want to make sure on a site where logging in means you have complete access to the user that it will always be HTTPS. In our case on ZeroToGeek.com, which is an online training site for programmers, you'll see that our login isn't with an HTTPS. That means your password theoretically is less secure. Well, not theoretically, it's less secure than an HTTPS, but the level of access that the user has is a lot lower, so the importance of us protecting that password in a level that is higher from us encrypting it on our server, because once you send this information to our server, we encrypt it. We don't even have access to the password. Only you have access to the password, but whenever you're typing this in, if you're typing it in a public library, you have maybe a security risk that someone might want to take your password. Now, this is a completely separate topic, but speaking of this, it's incredibly important to have a different password for every single website that you use. And I know that this is kind of like, and this is just because of the question that you asked, is really critical. Imagine that one website, even if it's our website, God forbid, and someone is in your area and they're accessing your personal information and they got your password. Now, if you're using the same email and password, most likely this is the same user and password you're going to use on your Gmail, on your Amazon, and all the other places. A lot of people get hacked and a lot of people get their information stolen, not because someone got access to their credit card, but because someone got access to one of their passwords in one of those sites. Now, I know it's not easy to remember hundreds of passwords, so a good technique that I like doing is mixing into the password something that is relevant only to that website, such as mixing in maybe a few letters from the URL, or deciding that the second letter and the fifth letter you're going to put in as the first two letters in the password, and creating some sort of a dynamic password that you're the only one that knows that relationship, so that then when you go to the other websites, there are always different passwords, and no automatic algorithm could then hack into your account. So that's just one of the techniques that I like using. Now, regarding like our site, you'll see that when you go into the prices and you actually click on to pay, we're going to be transferred into a completely different site. Although it looks like our site, but it's not. It's just our design. And you'll see in the URL that we transferred you to PayPal.com. And PayPal.com has an HTTPS and is a very, well, their whole business is credit cards. We don't store people's credit cards on our system, and that way we make sure that users are protected through PayPal and have the security of working with PayPal and not needing to provide another credit card. So that's an example of how we chose to treat the user's information. We don't want to store your private personal information on our site. That is handled and managed by PayPal itself. Okay. And this is just choices that you have to make when you're going online. If you're going to buy from someone that has an HTTP, or a lot of websites that don't have HTTPS usually make their payment processing with PayPal. Now let me ask you a question. If you go on a website that has an HTTP access, and they ask you to put in your credit card information, would you do it?
No.
From now on, you wouldn't. Did you
No.
know about this before?
I had no idea. No.
Beautiful. Hopefully you know about it now as well, and you'll protect yourself against putting in your credit card information in a site that doesn't have HTTPS. Now, don't judge websites that don't have HTTPS. A lot of times, small websites, such as my website, just don't have the money or time to invest in all these infrastructures. So instead of that, we go to third-party companies such as PayPal and some other main providers of credit card processing, and they take care of all those stuff in the HTTPS area. All you have to make sure is whenever you're putting personal information, such as your social security card, your credit card, things that are really, really personal, or I would even go as far as if someone tries to force you to put in your first name and last name and all this information, I would avoid it. On our website, we don't ask you or force you to put your personal information. You're only putting it in once you move into PayPal. So I would try to keep safe from, and that's just a thought process that you want to come through. It doesn't mean when you go into a small site, don't buy from them. It means probably only buy from them if they're using PayPal or they're using some sort of mechanism that makes sure that your credit card is not going to be spread out throughout a lot of smaller sites that probably has less severe security or less strong security on their accounts.
Okay.
So this is what I wanted to talk about, the first step of how to protect your information. Don't walk away yet. In our next video, we're going to talk also about how do you know that who you got the email from is actually the person? Well, wow, I'm just like blabbing now. So how do you know where you are is where you want to be? How do you know when you get an email from your bank, it really is an email from your bank? How do you know when you get an email from Amazon, it actually really is Amazon? Yeah. So we're going to talk about that in the next email because that's the second layer of security, making sure you know who it is. Having a secure connection doesn't mean there's a good guy behind that good secure connection. It just means they're the only ones that could get that information if there's no big bug in going on the web and there's people hacking all over which you have no control over, which is something that happened actually recently. It was called Heartbleed, where SSL was vulnerable for hundreds of thousands of sites and a lot of credit cards and a lot of information were probably compromised. And from what I understand, a lot of spying agencies were aware of this for years, and they were stealing people's information and getting into personal accounts of people without them knowing through this loophole, and only now they found out about it. And you never know, these stuff could happen. They do happen. Unfortunately, you can't protect yourself against everything. So see you in the next video where we're going to talk about how do you confirm the identity of the person that you're doing a transaction with.